Hi everyone, welcome to Lesson 4. Now that we have discussed meditation, SRV affirmation, and the basic enneagrams, we can move on to the first SRV target directional. First, start by numbering the pages. This will be page 1. Take the time to read the conscious mind and subspace mind instructions if this is your first time that you have ever seen this page. For those who may not know, the subspace mind is just a vocabulary term that refers to your multidimensional self. I enjoy using computer metaphors, so imagine the conscious mind as a desktop computer, while the subspace mind is the collective data and computing power that is available when a computer is connected to the internet. Most people would agree that a personal computer is capable of much more when it can go online via networking capabilities. So it wouldn't be incorrect to say that remote viewing is the biological equivalent to getting your body's hardware to connect to the World Wide Web, or universal consciousness. As we go through the SRV target directional, I'll be showing you an already filled out form that I did not too long ago. Let's look at the target coordinates first. These are just some random numbers that act like a Rubik's Cube of sorts to distract the conscious mind so that data can flow through the viewer uncorrupted by the imagination. You can find a simple random number generator on Farsight's website in the SRV section, but truly any random number generator will do the job. Next, let's look at the session number. When doing large projects like Farsight's Mysteries series, multiple sessions are needed to truly get a grasp on what the target is. Numbering the sessions is simply something to aid in your organizational adventures later on. Feel free to simply put down 1 or practice, as this is a practice session. Experiment number represents the name that we have given the experiment that we are doing. To keep the remote viewer blind, we recommend using a code of sorts, much like one that you see here on the page. This can help you organize sessions as well, while concealing the target's information from the viewer, keeping the viewer totally blind to the target. Now, there are many data types, but we will only discuss 3 and 4. 3 denotes a solo session where you are working alone, and 4 denotes a monitored session. A monitored session, at Farsight, refers to a session where you have somebody helping you learn the remote viewing process, someone who's aiding in your training as a remote viewer. If you are studying alone, just put down 3, and for monitoring level, just put down solo, because you are studying solo. If you ever have a monitor, just write down monitored. Farsight has recently decided to add a new category called interviewer. We see that monitor does a different job from an interviewer. A monitor helps in training a remote viewer, but an interviewer simply aids in directing a viewer's perceptions. Metaphorically speaking, an interviewer is much more like a drone operator, while the remote viewer is the drone. The drone operator gives the drone directions around a landscape to better understand more about the location through a live video feed. The remote viewer in this case being the drone. Farsight's definition of a monitor is an individual who is directing and simultaneously educating the remote viewer to teach the remote viewer how to be a remote viewer. That is their first and foremost goal when conducting a session. The main difference being that a monitor may provide instructions that may expose small elements of the target, mainly just because of what I just said. The primary focus of a monitor is to make sure that the viewer can learn how to be a better remote viewer, as opposed to clean data acquisition. An interviewer does not do this. An interviewer will provide directions on where to go and what to look at without exposing the target in any way. You may hear this to be different from other people who are teaching remote viewing, but this is just what Farsight has decided to do with their recent methodologies. Moving on, PS stands for physical state, and ES stands for emotional state. Both of these should be okay before continuing. If you are not okay, then you should not be doing a session. Any discomfort or annoyance is a distraction that can corrupt the data during a session. AP, this stands for advanced perceptual. If you have an idea in your head about the target before you've actually started the session, where you just can't get it out and you're thinking, oh yeah, that's exactly what the target is, and you can't shake it, just put it down on the paper. Usually the mind is very calm after meditating, so I often just write down none. But the advanced perceptual, if you have one, is going to be your first deduction. After you write down your advanced perceptual, make sure you put your pen on the desk and put your hands flat on the desk and just take 2 or 3 seconds just to clear the mind. A deduction is something that may be perfectly correct, but the general rule of thumb is that a deduction is 100% incorrect, but there is a very low level piece of information or data within the deduction which is 100% correct. The purpose of a deduction is that it simply is to get the data out of the mind and onto the paper, so that you can proceed with the next steps in the session with a clear mind, uninfluenced by assumptions or any ideas of what you think should be there because something was there. We will revisit this topic later on. Last, we have something a little bit more self-explanatory: your name, the date, and the time. These are just for personal record and help in keeping the organization of your sessions. So it is good practice to always write them down. That is all for now. I'll see you in lesson 5.